Why do you think that the conversation about the expectations that people are having of dating isn't being had? So let me explain to you what I mean. So when I was when I was dating, my goal always was long-term relationship. My goal was always looking for somebody for marriage because I was a relationship guy and my goal was always marriage. But I could also a time think back to the times when I was dating. That question was never asked of me. Like, from what are you expecting from a relationship or during dating? So my question is, why do you think that conversation is had?
Out of fear from the man's side. We
Well, I
don't.
mean, from the man or woman side,
Okay,
and
yeah,
or
yeah. Okay. Well, from the man's side, is out of fear, especially if she's a very attractive woman. Yeah, and by hearing the conversation, you hearing how she's speaking and the tone. So you don't want you're trying to get the date number two. So you don't want to mess nothing up. Date number three, you don't want to mess nothing up because the view of her has clouded your judgment. I can't mess nothing up. Uh, I believe from a female aspect, and this is only, what I'm saying, a belief, um, it's the confidence. I know I'm going to get what I want. If I don't get what I want, there's not going to be no date one or date two. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where
explain to me what you mean.
okay, a woman internally knows what she's expecting. All right, so she's internally. All right, she knows, and it's one of those things where I'm in the control seat. So I don't really have to tell you my expectations. I'm going to sit back and see if you meet them or not. And that's how I'm going to categorize you. I'm gonna put you in the friend zone. You're gonna be the guy that take me to lunch. You're gonna put this by you not knowing, because I'm not saying it's a game, but it's more line of how I believe they vet. I'm not going to tell you my expectations because I want to see if you um, systematically, you know what I'm saying, hit each one, hit each tier, and that's going to let me know if you're here for me. You are the so-called right one. They feel like if they tell you, you're going to try to, you know what I'm saying, be that, and that's not the real you.
So I get where you're going. My question, well, it's not really a question, but my thought process is I think that that's part of the reason why so many people, and particularly women, because women are, they're having more relationships with men than men are with women. They're getting into these relationships that don't really end up going anywhere. They end up in, dead end relationships or situationships because the reality of it is that they really want relationship. They're looking for something long term, but as you stated, they're not saying anything. They're not asking the question of the guy, what are you wanting to get out of what are you wanting by you coming after me, you pursuing me, what are you hoping to get? They are they're getting into relationships that aren't aligned. Like
Mhm,
this guy wants something casual, but deep inside she wants a long-term relationship
mhm.
because deep in the back of her mind she knows she wants to one day get married and have kids. And she gets into but he knows that he wants the box. And so the
That goes back to
standard
what I was saying.
yeah, the standard, so her standard hasn't been set. And so she gets into a relationship with this dude It ends up not going anywhere. They call it off.
Hmm.
She becomes jaded because 9 out of 10 times that relationship was toxic in some form or fashion.
Hmm.
Um, he gets end up being labeled a narcissist because he only is thinking about himself, which clearly from the beginning that's all he wanted from the beginning.
Yeah.
Which kind of goes over, kind of talk dives into those red flags that we were talking about last episode or the episode before that. So, do you think that because these people aren't these these men and women aren't having these conversations that they wind up jaded and they end up causing more damage to one another, and then 5 6 7 relationships down the road you're like all men are trash, and you know now you don't want a relationship at all.
I see it as the scale thing. You know what I'm saying? The scale thing. I see men and women who are in their attractor scales, fives and fives and sixes and six, or you and your attractor scales who are together. They have these conversations. All right. The where the but these situations to where these conversations are not happening, these are these imbalanced scales. You have a woman who's a six, but she's talking to or she's chasing after or caught whatever, you know what I'm saying, with this 8 or 9 guy, you know what I'm saying, and that alone she should understand, but she want this guy to be the relationship guy. Well, like you say, he's not turning down the box, so he's going to play on that emotional string of a, yeah, you could have a chance. She don't want to mess it up because, oh, he's so handsome, he's this, he's got this. I don't really want to mess it up by telling him everything that I want, so I'm just going to slide into it and drop little subtle hits along the way. The while. Well, why? And that's what happens. That's literally what happens. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to play it out to get the boss. Okay, what you want me to do? You want me to, you know what I'm saying, do this here? All right, because the 9 and 10 women that he's at his level, they know that they're beautiful, so they trying to play the game of being you know what I'm saying, to milk you out your money. So he's not even trying to deal with that too much because he's like, I just come down here and mess around. And so that's how it's not. These conversations are not happening. Um, and but where everything is equally yoked at, they're having these conversations. What you expect? Man, I'm expecting to be a family man. I want to have me a wife. I want to take care of my kids. I want to do this here and I want to do this. What you expecting? She says, hey, I want to further my education. I want to blah blah blahs and this is just, you know what I'm saying. They are having those conversations, and those tends to be the ones that end up in marriage and have longevity.
So let me ask you this question, and I'm interested to get your thoughts because I was actually thinking about this because this question came up from a video I was watching earlier today. I forgot to send it to myself, so I can't I can't remember where I saw it at.
Oh, that happens.
What do you think would happen if, let's say, a guy like myself, a smooth 4.5 on the handsome scale, but a good 7, 8, 9 on the everything else scale,
Hmm.
um, is having, is out on a date with a woman that is clearly out of my range, right? And let's just say hypothetically she asked the question of, you know, what are you looking for? And I said, well, to be honest with you, you know, what I'm looking for a long-term relationship with somebody that I could build a future with and eventually become a husband and a father. Let's say hypothetically.
Hmm.
What do you think the response would be to that question?
In today's market, well, Well, one, I'm not really looking for that. I'm just looking, you know what I'm saying, to go out and date and see where things takes me. Uh, I'm not really ready to settle down right now. That's how that conversation is gonna go.
And you know what? It's funny because I was actually thinking about that today, and I was like, I'm pretty sure it wasn't to that extent, but it was damn near almost word for word, in my mind, how I thought that a conversation like that would go. And the thing is, it kind of made me think about the fact that I've had these conversations with women that had friend zoned me,
Hmm.
and they would say things to me like, "Oh, you're such a great guy. You're gonna make some woman a very lucky man, and she's gonna be so fortunate to have you." Now, granted, this was like years ago, back when I was in high school or in my early adulthood. You're gonna make somebody a great husband and a great father. Literally, like months later or weeks later, we're having conversations. It's just like all men ain't shit. These niggas out here ain't worth a pot to piss in. And I look at them like, it ain't all men. Oh, I
You
ain't
got
talk. I
one
oh
right here.
oh I ain't talking about you. And that used to bother me, right?
Yeah,
It used to bother me to the point to where, like, whenever I would go out on dates with girls, and like there were a few times I would say maybe that, like, not necessarily what you want, what are you looking for a relationship, but you kind of know, if you have any sort of thought process or any sort of intelligence, you can kind of figure out what they're trying to hint around.
yeah,
And I just wouldn't really necessarily say anything because it's like you get traumatized by the fact that all these girls that that you as a guy know would be excellent wives, excellent mothers, excellent girlfriends, they ain't paying you not no bit of mind because it ain't even what they really want.
yeah.
But it is what they want. They just don't want it with you.
Boy,
But then
boy.
but then 20 years later,
Say
they
it.
they
Don't say
they
it.
they by themselves. They by themselves. Ain't got nobody.
Nobody.
And so the reason why I bring this conversation up is because I'm always thinking about how do we improve the relationships that with people in general. I, I'm married, so I got a relationship, but there's a lot
Yeah,
of people out there that they want to get into relationships. Men are scared to get into relationships because you know of the expectations that women have. Women are scared to get into relationships because they think all men are dogs. But the right questions aren't being asked when you're out on these dates with people.